talking about Jesus showing up when you need him. Back in 2010, when Jesus was putting Abby and I together, there were many times throughout that year and after, but throughout that year especially, where things weren't going well. Jesus was putting me on a fast track to grow up.
Amen.
And get some missing puzzle pieces in place so I could take care of Abby and give her what she needed if it was going to work. And there were many times I would miss it. I would have a feeling when something would happen or something would be said, and I would miss it, and I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't make things right on the spot. And later on, I would be talking to my mom and dad or Uncle John and Aunt Barbara, and I would tell them what I had felt, and they would say, "That was spot on. Why didn't you act on it?" It just, I was having those right feelings, but I wasn't acting on it. I didn't have that maturity or that boldness, whatever it took. And Jesus was teaching me all throughout that. And there would be times I would be out here on this gravel road, the loop, in the pitch black, just crying out to Jesus. Just walking along, crying out to him, because it was not something I could do in myself. That wasn't who I was. And I made some progress. There was some progress made along that summer of 2010. And then fall was coming up quickly when Josiah and I were going up to Boone to go to school. And we had rented a house up there. We had already moved in our stuff in preparation for it, but we hadn't started yet. And one night, I had missed it again. I had missed it major. There was something that had happened, and I had missed it. I had the feelings I needed, but I hadn't gone with it. And it was 10 or 11 at night, a 2.5-hour drive up to Boone. I just took off in my car to drive up to Boone, where I could just be alone. That whole drive up there, it makes me think of Sister Willie's testimony on that bus, seeking God all the way back down to North Carolina. That whole way driving up to Boone, it was through tears, crying out to Jesus. But when I crested the mountain there at Boone, about 15 minutes from the house we were renting, it was such thick fog that the big intersection you turn off of before you get to Boone, there are like 5 or 6 big traffic lights, bright traffic lights there. And it was such thick fog, you couldn't see the traffic lights until you were under them.
Wow.
It was such thick fog. So I finally made it there to the house late that night, in the middle of the night. And I didn't know that Jesus had in store for me a trial, because I got physically sick and I passed out. It was something spiritual. It was something spiritual I was overcoming there. And when that passed, and I was staying in touch with my parents, but when that passed a day or two later, I felt different. I felt like Jesus had done something for me. And throughout that fall and winter, and on into the next spring, there would still be things I was learning, and I was still growing, and I would miss something here or there. But I had taken that big step up. Jesus had helped me grow. But then, it was only a couple weeks before Abby and I were planning on having our papers signed, early 2011. It was probably late May 2011. And something had happened, and my parents sat us down. And I don't remember the exact conversation, but basically it was, we just don't feel like this is going to work. We don't feel like it's going to work between you two. Based on what we're seeing recently, it's just not going to work out. And all Abby and I could do, this is our testimony, all we could do was just fall on our faces and just start praying, just talking to Jesus again. It felt like that whole year, that's what we were doing. Both of us were growing. And it felt like something changed. That happened. Something changed. And then a couple weeks later, we had our paper signed. And during that Sunday when we were signing our paper, right after we had signed our papers, That was the Indian wedding where Gary had that song he had gone home and written the late night before, wondering what he was doing. And you wrapped the tie around your head. It's just amazing but Jesus put his stamp of approval on it. After that whole year of us growing and seeking him and all those trials, he put his stamp of approval on. And then, of course, a couple weeks before, Abby had her big wreck too, or a few weeks before Abby had her big accident. If we weren't in the spot we needed to be in, I feel sure he would have taken her on off the planet to save her.
Yeah, could have.
But he
did.
Growing up, I was watching a lot of my friends slowly leave the meetings, slowly get off track, and I saw, I would watch their parents and I would see the hurt that it would cause them, and it did something to me seeing that. And as a little girl, I remember praying and telling Jesus, I promise I will never do that to you and to my parents. And it was just one moment in my childhood, and I would have other times where I'd get so frustrated with who I was, whether I was selfish or I was mean sometimes. I would aggravate people. I mean, just I could tell you I would aggravate the snot out of him. And he got to pick my punishment one time, and it was to stand in the trash can, and I had to. But there were so many things about me that I didn't like. And I wrote them down on a piece of paper, and I said, God, please change these things about me. I don't want to be this way. And fast forward years later, I was a junior in high school, being around my friends. I was very immature. My heart was here. I loved everybody so much, but you'd slowly let a standard down, or let a little thing slide in with your friends, or maybe watch a movie that you shouldn't have watched, or just little things like that all along in my high school. And it slowly, I was losing, I was leaving in my heart. And I never would have said I was, but I know I was. And I had a prom, and I had invited Josiah, Elijah, and Aaron to go with me, because they went with me my freshman year, and I wanted to do that again. That was fun. And so I invited all three of them, and I had asked Aaron first, and Josiah and Elijah were like, no, we're not doing that again. And so it was just Aaron, and he wanted to go, and I'm like, that is so awkward, because I had had feelings for him since I was like 13. I had a really big crush on him. And I was like, that is so awkward, I cannot do that. And so my friends had schemed up for me to go with this other guy at school, and he had asked me, and I had told Aaron, I said, hey, I'm uninviting you. And it hurt him. And I didn't know he felt that way about me, and it hurt him. And I went to you, and I said, I don't know what to do. And you told me that if I didn't go to the prom with Aaron, that I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I'm so thankful. I called that other guy back. I'm like, sorry, I can't go. And Aaron went to the prom with me, and that was the start of us. That was the start of us. And Jesus let that happen to save me, because I needed that. And that whole year of learning to grow and doing all of that, he was slowly taking those things on my list that I had written down.
Amen.
I found that piece of paper that year. At the end of that year, I found that piece of paper and I was reading through it and I'm like, God, not like that anymore.
Praise.
So then I was reading in my journal the day you two, I think it might have been after he put us together, but I was reading in my journal back from years ago, and I read where I had made that promise to God, and I said, God, I couldn't even keep my promise to you. You kept my promise for me.
Thank you, Jesus.
It was a really hard year. I had some major growing up to do. I gave Aaron some run for his money. But I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for you guys.
Amen.
Because you saved me. If it wasn't for you, I don't think I would be here. And Uncle Gary, you were a part of that the first night. And Uncle John, and you were both. I'm so thankful for my family.
Praise God.
But we got married. And it was, it felt like you were just constantly getting smacked down, you know. And when it was that day that we were going to get married, it was like God was saying, "You did a good job." I'm so thankful to have, like what Leah sent out, to have a mom and dad who love the Lord, and another mom and dad.
Yeah.
What is that to my kids?
Yeah.
Amen.
It's wonderful.
Amen.
The life that we
Glory.